I think I was hard on myself because I felt like I wasn't performing at the level of everyone else, even though I was told I was.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we have a very, very special guest. Please welcome Mr. Aaron Chan.
What's up?
Welcome.
Thank you.
So did you want to give our listeners a little intro about yourself? Like what you do, what you love, your hobbies?
Well, as Sam said, my name's Aaron. We go way back, like 2015?
Yeah, I think it was
I think it was before.
2013.
Yeah,
actually.
2013, yeah.
Yeah, that's hectic. That's like 10 years next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ages, man.
I'm a lawyer. I work in banking law. That's how I met Sam and Amelia. What do I love to do? I actually love to scuba dive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget that you do
Love
scuba
a good
dive.
scuba dive on the weekend.
So we wanted to get you in because of the industry that we were all in when we first started, but also because you're still in that industry.
Yep.
And what it was like when you first started in the law industry, like your mindset around it. Were you in it thinking TV shows make it really glamorous? Like, did you have that kind of expectation as well? And what you see in working in that industry now? So we just wanted to pick your brain and learn about that side of things.
But before we sort of jump into it, we'll give listeners a bit of context. So we all work together at Galilee Solicitors, and that's when the good times started.
Yeah, we had our own little mob happening.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. And I think it was arguably the best time in our careers, I think.
For me, it was.
It was like the chillest.
Yeah, it was the chillest. And I think the biggest thing behind it was, even though we were all friends, our mindset when it came to work was always the same. So we knew how to have fun,
work hard, play hard.
but work hard as well.
Yeah.
So I think we had that a mutual agreement in some way, which we all worked really well.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So like when I started at Galley, it was just our friend Richard and then you, and then it was me joining in as an admin. And it was funny because we like never talked because we were like so quiet. Well, I was quiet because I was scared of the senior paralegal because she was like always like watching your back.
Shall not name.
cannot be named. And I was like always really quiet, and then you were just doing your thing as well. And then I think when we started having you, like Sam and Amanda in as well, that's when we all like started forming this like group, and then Sibel as well that joined, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then waited for payday and had sushi edo.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, sushi Ito. And then
Spent like so much money on that.
Yeah. And I think it's like every payday would be like, yep, let's go sushi Ito.
Yeah.
Was it like every second Wednesday?
I think it was.
Or something like that.
Yeah, it was a fortnight. And then this guy over here, Sam, ordered like 10 salmon nigiris or something.
Wasn't it salmon avocado?
Yeah, salmon avocado.
Yeah, that was my phase. I love that shit, bro.
Straight up, just click 10. Quantities 10.
You gotta enjoy that payday, man. Enjoy the food.
Yeah, so it was good. Like, it was definitely hard. Like, the work itself, it was really demanding. Like, if you were a settlement clerk, you had to run from places to places within like 5-minute spans across the city to like even South Bank if you needed to. For the people that are living in Brisbane, that's quite a far trek. And then paralegals, you just have to call people back to back, like just to get money, get the funds, make sure you got the checks and all that stuff happening. So it was fun, but like I think that's what brought us together, is that because we're all trying to make things work, we're all helping each other out. So we just had fun as well.
Yeah, it was high. Was it high intensity? But we all were aligned in terms of our synergy, which was really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Fuck, I miss those days.
Yeah, I miss it too. But I think it was good. Like, even though now I'm not in that industry anymore, it was definitely a good experience that I feel everyone needs, is to work in that high pace and high demand atmosphere. So it builds you to, know how to deal with stress and people needing things from like different directions all the time.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, it's obviously a little bit different because I'm my professional career was or is that industry.
Yeah.
But I think for the both of you guys, like Amelia, you're completely out of
Yeah, I'm like in
the
the
law
creative
world.
industry.
Yeah, you're
now.
on the other side of the spectrum now. And Sam is in banking now. So I think for you guys, it's like you've experienced the industry and now you're somewhere else. But for me, it's almost like it's a little bit different because I'm still in it, just in a different area of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think our experience is probably looking back at it, maybe a bit different. But I think at the time, I think we agree that we worked really well together.
Yeah, 100%, man.
And that's what we wanted to ask you about because you're still in that industry. Do you feel like these type of moments has helped build you to move up in like the law chain, like just that hard grind and all that stuff to build you up to become where you are now?
Yeah, no, I think I was really lucky in the sense that I got to work in what we call the tiers in law, but in all three tiers. And the really great thing about Galilee was I think it was just so hands-on and I had the opportunity to do so much stuff that I may not have necessarily been able to do in other places. So I think, yeah, it did really, I think, set a good foundation for me. And to be honest, I didn't even know I wanted to do that kind of law in the beginning. I came back from uni exchange, and Richard was like, do you want a job? I was like, sure.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, it was a hard grind.
Yeah.
We had good times. Sam, I remember we asked our boss if we could buy
Oh my God.
speakers and a subwoofer.
Yeah. Dude, I was so surprised that she said yes.
She was just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So long as you're not like disturbing people. I'm like, sure, okay. So we went to buy one.
Dude, and surely there was a sub involved because I was sitting on the opposite side of this office and I can hear like by lunchtime, 12 o'clock on the dot, it's like doof, doof, doof.
Hey, I use the speakers as a reminder for everyone to go on lunch, okay? So it was a good benefit for everyone, all right?
No, it's good tunes.
Yeah, I think it pretty much was like 12 o'clock on the dot.
Yeah.
You just hear doof, doof, doof.
Gets louder and louder. Wait, did you guys ever take that speakers back?
Sam did.
Yeah, I think I did.
Wait, did you?
You're using it now.
Oh, am I? Oh, I didn't even know. Well, thank you,
We still got it,
Galilee.
man. Yeah.
Galilee sponsor.
No, we paid for
Yeah,
it.
we paid for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I want my money
so
back.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, because I remember, our boss at the time was like, yeah, you can do it, but you guys got to pay for it. And we're like, okay.
No, she was really cool. She's,
Yeah.
really supportive. So a little bit about mindset and expectations then, now that you're fully in law.
Yep.
Did you ever had any like sort of expectations or did you think law would be the same as what it is like in like TV shows, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like your suits and that sort of TV
Like
dramas.
on the run coffee with the
So
newspaper.
disclaimer, I have watched all seasons of Suits, just to put that out there, because I'm sure everyone will want to know.
Yeah.
But no, I think, I guess maybe what I'll do is I'll start from my own perspective. I think going through uni as a law student, I'm sure every law student can vouch for this, but I think it's just naturally a very competitive cohort. I think law students are very bright, very high achieving, very motivated people. So obviously always wanting to strive for the best. So I think that natural inherent motivation and attitude to always wanting to achieve, I think is the culture. And for me, that it definitely was within me, but I think at the time I didn't really know where or what kind of law I wanted to do. So, I mean, I still wanted to achieve the best, but I think there are some people out there who obviously they've got their finger on what they want and they're going after it. But I think expectation wise, I knew that the legal industry wasn't an easy one, both in terms of, the hours that you work, as well as just, I think the attitudes and the culture within the industry. And you hear like the horror stories of people saying like, oh, you're not allowed to leave work until the partner does. And sometimes
True.
the partner won't leave till like 11 o'clock at night. Or like
right.
if the partner's, in the office till midnight, then so should you be, because the work trickles down. And if they're busy at the top, then everyone should be busy basically. And to an extent, it's true. When the partner is busy, you should be busy too. But I think I honestly think it's just a firm by firm culture. But there is a bit of an understanding that, when it's busy, you work hard, you stay late, you get the job done. And I think that's in all industries as well. But I think the really good thing is that people work really well in a team, I think, in law, and you all kind of go through the same experiences, so you don't feel like you're doing it on your own, which is what I really love, because, like if you're late, you're staying late at work, you're not the only one doing it, and it makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Well, like instead of resenting someone for like leaving at 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
you're like, damn you. Like this guy 4:30 and he's already got his bag in his hand, like ready to leave.
Yeah, man.
But I think going back to like suits and stuff like that, definitely not how
Yeah.
law is practiced.
Over exaggerated or just.
I think the practice of law is completely wrong.
You tell him, Aaron.
Yeah.
You tell him.
I don't walk around being like, what'd you say now?
Yeah.
Or like trying to bluff my way through with an empty folder kind of thing.
Empty.
True.
I definitely hope not there's no frauds or anything. But
Yeah.
I mean, the offices are all nice. I mean, that's probably one part of it that's true.
Like the glamorous, nice
yeah,
offices.
and like
yeah.
the nice offices, the nice buildings and things like that. But the way we practice, nothing like it.
Have you seen Partners Track? The
I
one
have,
with
yeah.
Arnie. Did you like it?
That was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
it's
that
a very
realistic?
much a chick flick.
Yeah, it is. Was it realistic or not?
I actually think to a degree, yes. Well, that movie was, that show was what? Yeah, she was like an M&A lawyer or something like that.
Yeah, something
But M&A is cutthroat. Obviously the stakes are really high in M&A when you're dealing in, like the multi-millions to billions. It's obviously going to be cutthroat. I'm not sure if these lawyers, like everyday lawyers, are flying around in jets though, private jets.
Shit.
It's a bit extreme.
A little bit.
Yeah. But they were like working till doing all-nighters and things like that just to make one of the, cases go through, like make sure it works out and stuff.
And that would be expected, I'd say. You just got to do it when it's grind time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I think on the flip side, it's like when it's not too busy, then they'll
You're
give
free
you've got a
to-
bit of freedom to kind of be a bit more flexible. But then it's when it's busy, it's all guns blazing kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's similar to the creative industry. Like if there's a deadline for a design or a campaign to go out, everyone's like grinding to make sure that campaign is done and meets the deadline. But then when there's downtime, you can just either spend time exploring and working on your own design skills or something like that where it's similar to that. So
Yeah, and I'm sure it's like that in all industries. I mean, when it's busy, it's head down, pen up kind of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much like your banking and finance side.
it's
It's
the
like,
same.
yeah, like brokering or even mobile banking, because you're essentially mobile, you have customers or clients call you like after hours.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard to sort of, I guess, switch off. And at times clients expect you to give them that service. So it can be pretty full on sometimes. So I get, like you said, Aaron, it's probably the same across different industries in some way or form. Yeah. But you mentioned before that when you were in grad school, just during uni, you obviously had a perception or a basic understanding of law, right?
Yeah.
Now that you're sort of, 5-6 years deep,
Yep.
has your mindset changed from that beginning point to now?
In a way, I think it has. I think as a law student, and I guess I don't speak on behalf of every law student out there, but I think a lot of them obviously want to achieve the best in the industry and they want to work for the best and work alongside the best. And I think that's completely fine. And I think I did have a bit of that mindset during uni and grad. And you just, I guess, as a young lawyer or as a law student, you see or you hear the stories of being able to work on, multi-billion-dollar deals with the best lawyers in Australia and having your name like on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate power move for a young lawyer. But I think as I got older, as I got more experience in the industry, I think I realized that it's not necessarily about being able to work on the biggest deals of the year or in doing international cross-border work. But it's really just finding what you love and what area you feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I experienced probably over the last 2 years. And as you progress in your career and you get more senior, it's really finding your grounding, finding your feet in terms of where you want to really invest and grow in. Yeah, and I think I found that where I am at the moment.
Yep.
So how did you manage to find that place for you? Was it just like moving around, trying different places, or like speaking to people?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of everything. Moving around, working in different firms, experiencing different cultures. Like I said before, I think each firm has their own culture, and I think when law firms, when they bring talent in, I think a really big thing for law firms is culture. And I think it's because they see the fact that culture is something, like if you work in a team, right, you got to mesh, you got to work well, you got to be on the same page. Whereas knowledge is something you can teach.
Yeah.
You can give someone a book, or you can, train them up in the knowledge base, but you can't necessarily change someone's attitude, or their culture, their work ethic. So I think that's why culture is such a big thing in law firms, and because it's a grinding industry. You work late, you get the job done. They don't want someone who's like half-assed in the job kind of thing. Like, yeah, the culture, and I think finding a place that like you mesh with as well, I think is really important. And a lot of people say this in all workplaces, it's who you work with as well. I think that really makes work enjoyable and where you want to be. And I think that's what I found.
Yeah. And you can't find that, right, unless you try it and go for it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I'm a 100% believer in trying new things, exploring, learning, because I think if you never explore, you never try new things, you never know if you'll like it or not.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. I like that.
Did it take you long to find your feet in terms of, because you mentioned that you wouldn't know until you give it a crack, right? So did it take you time to sort of feel it out and go, okay, this is the place that I want to be, or this place might not be the right place for me?
I think so. I'm like 5 years in now in practicing, and I think the first 5 years of your career I would consider your early year days, or early days in your career, and it's really where you're exploring. You want to know, where do I want to work? What do I want to do? Do I want to work in private practice? Do I want to work in-house, like within a company? And a lot of those people are always exploring those things. Like, do I want to move overseas? And I think during those first 5 years of your career as a lawyer, it's really important to explore. And I think there are people out there who just, I think go into one firm and just absolutely love it. And they know that that's where they want to grow and invest their energy into. But I think it's also really good to explore new places, because like I said, cultures are always different, clients are different, and you never know, you may like it even more. The grass may be greener on the other side, it may not be. So
no, that's really good. Would it be easy for someone to move overseas though, because the law practice would be different?
So there's a really big industry for that at the moment. There's obviously different specific places that Australian practicing lawyers can go to. The big ones are obviously London, New York. I think California is one of them too. But Yeah, so I think and there's also like, because they run on different scales in terms of experience and what you can be called and things like that. And there's a sweet spot, which is normally like 3 to 4 years practicing in Australia is when they recommend you go over if you want to, because that's normally where they're looking for lawyers like 2 to 3 years experience.
Would you have to learn a different law system if you go over, or?
I think the US, yes. And I do think you need to sit the bar over there eventually. London, no. I think there are certain areas of law you can't practice in unless you do domestic courses over there. Otherwise, I think you just consider like an Australian qualified lawyer. But I think for me, like banking and finance, those skills are easily transferable over there, because I think the banking skills in law are generally pretty the same across the globe.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And you have that opportunity where you're at right now, hey, to say if you wanted to go like Asia or something, you can? Or
Asia?
I'm just saying because banking and finance is probably predominantly bigger in Asia, right?
I mean, it's pretty big anywhere. I mean, in any big city, it's a booming industry. And Asia is another one that you could go to as well. And yeah, no, definitely got that opportunity. And I'm really lucky that I have the experience in Australia to set me up to go overseas if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think that's just a decision if you want to do it long term, short term, if you want to just go over there for the experience as well.
Have you thought about it?
I have. I think initially in my early days as well, when I was exploring what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, that was actually my
First thing?
Yeah,
that you thought of?
like the first thing I thought of, like, and that was the kind of the career path I wanted for myself. And I think it was like get into a big firm in Australia, potentially down in Sydney, and then work there for a few years, and then go to London to work. But I think a lot of that changed after I experienced working in the really big firms. I think I just realized it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And like, do I still wonder if I still want to go overseas? I think yes, I do. But I'm always kind of pulled back and remembered that maybe the biggest deals in the world aren't what I'm striving for.
Yeah. Okay.
In my personal career.
What about that top tiered firm made you go, oh shit? And was it just because it was so intense, or like the hours, or what was it that?
Yeah, so a bit of a few things. I think it was pretty intense, and I think you get to work with the best lawyers in Australia and even like across the world, honestly, working in that space, and you learn so much because it's literally like the most complex deals go to these kind of firms. So you got your hands on the best deals of the year, which is really, really great. But I think for me personally, I realized on top of, the long hours and the grind, and I think there was a little bit of a unspoken competitiveness, I think, between the lawyers of my same level, and like we're 100% supportive of each other in everything we do, but I think just being in such a high performing environment, you can't not see that, and even if it's like putting too much pressure on yourself, it's just being in that environment, knowing that the person you're sitting next to is probably top their cohort kind of thing, because it's so competitive to get into these law firms now. Like, I remember I did an interview years and years ago when I was still in uni for a law firm, and one of the partners who interviewed me said, back in, when I was a junior, the thing that would set you apart is a double degree.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, that was, he was a bit older, but he was like, that's what set you apart. But he's like, now these juniors I'm interviewing are double degree, top of their class, speak 3 languages, do extracurricular,
Holy moly.
have experience in other law firms. And that's what you need to do to set you apart from the crowd.
Holy shit.
That's a
and it just
lot.
shows, how competitive it is. So you can imagine that kind of competitiveness, but when you get in, then it's like, people wanting to climb the corporate ladder, wanting to be promoted. And I think, I think it's an inherent culture within the industry. And I think that's not just something in a specific law firm, but I guess people do thrive off it. People love it as well.
Shit. You got to be really into it to be like, I'm 100%, or not even 100%, 150% dedicated to do very, very well.
But I think you also need a really strong mindset to kind of clear out all that clutter around you, like the competitiveness and all that, and try and work on yourself to do better.
Yeah, and I can definitely say, I think like when you're achieving, when you're doing well, you know, it's like a high, basically. Like you feel like everything is on your side. You know, you work well with everyone. So I get like people love that thrive, and I guess that's why you get workaholics, right? Like they love overachieving, or they love basically being the best.
But where's the balance then? Where's the balance of looking after yourself? Because you're so focused
and I think that's a huge thing. And I think in the legal industry, you know, mental health is a big battle because lawyers work such long hours and in such a demanding space. Mental health is something that's really big, and I think that's something that a lot of lawyers push to the side. Then they don't think about that, or they think like, oh, that won't happen to me kind of thing. But I think it's setting boundaries for yourself as well, like saying, you know, I'm not going to work on the weekends unless I 100% need to, and setting those early, because I think if you don't set them early and you do things that are beyond what your boundaries are, I think people can sometimes take advantage of it, whether or not it's intentional. But then it becomes that expectation that you'll do it on the weekend, or you'll get that job done before Monday morning. And there are days where you just have to. And I get that. I've done it lots of times, but it's just making sure that people around you, or people who you service or you work for or work with, know that these are your boundaries, because there's, you know, people who have families, and for me, you know, work isn't life. And I hope that, you know, as my career progresses, that's something that people understand, and I think that's one of the reasons why where I am now is what I love, because they do give me the flexibility. You know, I have a good working relationship with my boss, so long as I get the job done. Doesn't really care what I do.
Yeah, that's really good.
Which is good. And I think at the end of the day, for any employer, really, it's just getting the job done, being trustworthy, being efficient, and just not taking the piss on your employer, basically.
100%.
Grab coffees at 10 o'clock every day.
Walk across half the city.
Just to get a good cup of coffee.
What you mentioned there about working hard, being trustworthy and that sort of stuff, that 100% has some correlation to any other industry.
Oh,
right?
yeah. 100%.
And it makes sense. Like when you actually think about it, you need to show that you can be trustworthy, but you can work hard, you can get shit done, right? And you're not taking the piss.
Yeah.
And I think you also mentioned this before, which is attitude. It's very, very hard to find people with the right mindset, the right attitude behind their work. And I think that's a huge struggle in all industries.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that, work is work. You need to know what you need to do to get shit done. But I guess the mentality behind working, it's the attitude. It's never there.
Yeah. So would you say that was one of your main boundaries that you would set around work to make sure that you have a healthy, like, mental health?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's setting boundaries.
What were some other ones that you set for yourself to make sure that you were having that good balance?
So I think pre-COVID, another one was never bringing work home. I think for me, and because before COVID, I had to go in every day. So if I was busy, I would just stay in the office and work late. I wouldn't bring it home. And for me, because traveling home and then getting home, it was a way for me to switch off completely and turn off and know that work and home are two separate spaces of life. And that just really worked for me, because I knew that when it's home time, you don't think about work anymore. And I have work on my phone. Like, I can never escape it.
Yeah.
And that was a personal choice, but I wouldn't be, sitting on my phone at home, scrolling through my work emails, replying in the middle of the night. But I think as COVID when COVID happened and then I was able to work from home, it was then thinking, okay, well, I really love the fact that I can separate home and work. How can I do that now since I have to work from home? So it was setting up a workspace somewhere in the house that I can actually step away from and actually be away from it when it's not work hours. So for example, like I work in a study in a room, but when the day is done, I can close the door and not think about it, never have to go in there again.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think the physical separation really helps the mental separation for me.
Yeah.
And that's what's really worked. And it may not work for everyone, but personally for me, that's just
Works for you.
works for me.
Yeah, I'm quite similar as well. Like the office that we have upstairs, that's mainly for my work. And then apart from that, I would hang somewhere else or try to at least have an hour or something where it's away from that. So it's like a break and you know that it's not work anymore. Because if you work and then you end up sitting there at your computer straight after you're working, like you haven't fully mentally clocked out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that too.
I don't know how people do it, like where they make their bedroom their office.
Yeah.
I just lie on the bed all day.
Just
I like sit at my desk and then type
Slowly
probably like one
roll.
email and then go lie down.
roll backwards.
Yeah, I wonder how people do that, eh? How do they separate like your sleeping to...
But then some people don't have a choice. Like they have a
Yeah,
small
like if you don't have space, you have to.
Yeah.
And like that's such strong willpower.
It's
But like when I used to study in uni, like I have a desk in my room
yeah.
and I used to work at that desk. And like when I do my assignments,
Go to
you like
sleep.
you type like a paragraph and then you'd be like, oh, go lie down for
You
5 minutes.
open the Word doc, you type the title, then you
And then you fall asleep and you're like, oh,
yeah.
no.
Or you like, I'll watch one episode, and then it goes into like the whole season. You're like, oh shit, okay, I gotta do my assignment. Yeah, no, those are really good. I think definitely setting boundaries is really good around working and mental health, and like not just in the law industry, just any industry or just around work in general. And I think the good thing now is like nowadays a lot of people do understand that, as opposed to the traditional way of working where you have to stay because your boss is there, or you need to work the full hours because that's your set hours. But people understand that now, like you've worked in the extra hours before, and on the off times, off seasons, you can just have more freedom and take care of yourself more.
Yeah, and I think it's also another big one is doing things that you love. For me, it's like, even though I'm super busy, like I said, I like to scuba dive, but even though I'm super busy with work, family, friends, I still love to go out and scuba dive, even though it can be a really early start, like a 4 a.m. start on a weekend, and is sometimes can be physically exhausting, but it's just something that I enjoy doing. And even though it's physically tiring, I think it's really mentally refreshing because it's like, I don't think about work at all. And
your emails can't come through while you're swimming underwater.
You're underwater. No one can talk to you. You like, it's such just a different experience. And I think even if it's not scuba diving, it's, doing art or whatever, even like doing these podcasts, it's being able to switch off and turn your attention to something that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really gives you good, strong mental health as well. And it prepares you for the week ahead, refreshes you.
Gives you a restart.
Yeah, it gives you a restart. And in turn, it probably makes you more productive and more efficient as well.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think also it's good that you've realized that you don't need to do like the biggest cases, the ones with the big money, and you're finding something that you truly enjoy doing in work as well. And you actually enjoy where you are, because that's also really important. Because if you're doing something that you're not enjoying and you're just doing it purely for either the money or like the fame or name or something like that, it's harder. Like you get more tired that way. Your energy is just depleting and it's not energizing you.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're doing things for other people and not for your own self-growth.
Yeah.
For your own benefit. So, you do burn out.
Yeah. Have you had any burnout situations before?
Oh yeah, 100%. Lots of times actually.
Yeah.
But I think it's knowing when to say, like, it's knowing when to pull the reins back in a little bit and say, okay, it's getting out of control. What do I need to do to fix this? And it's always, like, I think it can be a pretty daunting thing to talk about to your bosses.
Yeah, true.
Especially when you really want to always give your 100%, you want to excel. You don't want to come across
as being a bitch.
Basically, yeah. Like, hell.
But how did you realize that you're burning out though? Like for people who are listening, because they might not know they're burning out.
Yeah. I think it's different for everyone, I would say. But personally for me, I think it was just that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. I couldn't think clearly. I think I was less productive.
Sleeping on your bed.
Sleeping on my bed, yeah. Probably not wanting to go to work.
Yeah.
Things like that. And I think that's really when I knew it's not just that because it's busy and I don't want to do it, or it's like, I'd rather be running around doing something else fun than sitting at a desk grinding. But it was like, okay, hold on. Is this just I'm exhausted? Like in terms of like I just need a break, like step away from the computer break? Or is it like there's something more to this? Is it mental health? Is it kind of, and then needing to check in with myself and just say, okay, like I've never experienced this before. And even like, if you need to seek professional help, because there's nothing better than talking to someone about it, who's a professional. And I think it's always, I think it's got a bit of stigma around it.
100%.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, really unfortunate because I think looking after your mental health is just like looking after your physical body.
Yeah.
It needs to be, you need to look after it. It needs to be healthy. It needs to be strong.
And you need to listen to your body too.
Yeah.
Like if it's telling you something, you gotta give it what it wants.
100%. And if it means, you're feeling run down, you're sick, don't push yourself. I think personally for me, it's like, what are you going to achieve in terms of productivity and efficiency if you're run down and you can't perform at a level that you need to be?
Yeah.
You might as well just take a break, step away, refresh, restart, and then come back to it with a clear mind.
Yeah, that's really, really important. And I think I like that you talk about the seeking professional help too. That's the thing that we've realized the most in talking to most of our guests is it's okay to go seek professional help, and it's not a bad thing. Like you're not crazy, you're not going psycho. It's just normal. It's just like you going to a doctor if you have a sore throat. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and I think there are people seek professional help more than we realize.
And
I think it's just because people don't talk about it.
Exactly.
But when you have conversations and then someone's like, oh yeah, I spoke to my therapist yesterday. And I'm like,
me too.
Yeah. And there's completely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good that, people are able to take that step forward to find help, because it's, at the end of the day, it's looking after yourself. And I think people can't make those decisions for you. You have to make them yourself and take that step. And it's knowing to look after yourself.
Yeah. It's good that you also understand your own body in terms of what it's feeling, what it's thinking, and what steps you need to take as well.
And I think it's not a crystal ball either. I think knowing when you feel burnt out or what it is, if it's a mental health thing or if it's just, you're falling ill or something like that. But I think the most important thing is, just tapping into it and just realizing that there's maybe something's a little bit off, and then exploring it and not being afraid to seek professional help.
A lot of people shovel it under the carpet or under the rug.
Oh, 100%.
They try to ignore it. It's just, I guess they don't like to either confront it, or they're just afraid to know the truth. Like they know what's happening, but they're like, I don't want to accept it.
Yeah, or they're like, I'll just push through it. Yeah, it's just an episode or something like that. Yeah. I'll get over it. But I think there are situations where you can just push through if you're resilient enough. It's saying that I wouldn't recommend it, but I think it compounds over time.
Yeah,
100%. Especially if it's a reoccurring event that's triggering it. Yeah, I think people sweep it under the rug, but over time, it's something you need to address.
Yeah.
Because I think it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
might just end up breaking down or like
Yeah.
lash out on someone by accident or whatever it might be. Like it will just come back like 10 times, like
Yeah.
harder
Yeah.
than it would.
100%. So then, if you could provide the top, let's say, 5 advices to your younger self, or maybe someone who is currently in grad,
Yep.
what would those be?
Top 5. That's a lot of advice.
Well, it could be like career advice or even your
true.
personal growth
Yeah.
advice too.
Oh, okay. First one, and I think the most important one is, I think, listen to yourself. Don't get caught up in what's going around you. And I think it's know what you want, like discover and learn what you want to do. I think it's not good to always chase something that you think is what is best for you, but taking a step back and understanding that that may not necessarily be something that you want to do, and that's okay. And I think that's the biggest thing. I don't even know if I have 5. That's so many.
That's all
Or
right.
top 3? Or
Top 3,
anything,
okay.
anything, yeah.
Find something you love. For me, I think through my career, I've worked in a number of law firms now, and losing or not having the time to do things that I love, like recreationally, took a really big toll on me, I think. So being able to find the time to do what you love and being able to switch off and restart, I think is really important. And even if it's something small, like, I don't know, walking your dog or well, you should be walking your dog every day.
To all the dog walkers that don't walk their dogs.
No, but I mean, like, I don't know, like if you like, I don't know,
Even just going to your
sewing,
favorite
knitting.
cafe.
Yeah, favorite cafe, chilling out,
Yeah.
on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I think it's really important just to do something that you enjoy for yourself. And it's okay to be a little bit selfish sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially looking after yourself in that way.
100%.
Let me round it with 3.
3's not a round number.
Top 3. I think don't box yourself in to what you think the industry norms are. I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but I think in law, people think you need to have the best grades, you need to have the best experience, you need to have, done community work, but like to get into, the best of the best. But, personally for me, I did have experience and I did do charity work, which I think is really good for everyone, but I didn't necessarily have the best grades in the cohort. And I think people think, once you've got only decent grades, not, top of the class, it means it's the end. You're never going to make it to the very top. But I think that's not true. I worked in one of the big law firms in Australia, international law firm. And honestly, it might take longer. It may not necessarily be that you get to go straight into those kind of law firms straight after uni, but it just means that it's your experience that will take you there and not necessarily your grades.
Yeah.
And people see that. I mean, when you work in the industry long enough, you work with a lot of different lawyers, different partners, and they see how you perform. And that's what they're looking for at the end of the day. It's, can you adapt? Can you take on the skills and learn? And being book smart is great. But I think at the end of the day, it's the practicality and your skill, which is really what they look for.
That's really true because there's like a saying, I don't know the exact word, it's like talent can take you to places but determination can take you further or something like that.
So deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Very deep.
Confucius.
Maybe we'll
Do you have
finish it
that
on-
like over your desk
Yeah,
upstairs?
that's those stickers with the cursive writing stuck on my wall. I look up at it every morning and be like, yes, determination.
That last one is a strong one though. It's
Yeah.
powerful because I think the mindset is all about it's all about my grades, right? It's all about what I can show on paper.
Yep.
But it goes deeper than that. It's all about your character. It's all about your attitude.
Yeah.
How you can adapt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you limit yourself too if you start off your career thinking you can't get anywhere just because you got average grades, but you're limiting yourself not because of the stereotypes, it's just your thoughts that's stopping you from working further. And if you're willing to learn, willing to grow from where you are now, I think that will work in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, for me, it's like I know I'm hard on myself sometimes, and it's just because
As most of us are
Yeah.
Asian culture.
and I think it's just because you don't want to let anyone down, but you also want to perform to expectation. And for me, I think I was hard on myself because I felt like I wasn't performing at the level of everyone else, even though I was told I was. But I think it was just so mentally ingrained in me that I was like, I need to be hitting these certain budgets. I need to be billing this many hours a day. And if I wasn't, I felt like I was underachieving, which then made me think, like, am I at the capability or at the level that they expect me to be? But yeah, I think it's also stepping back and not being so hard on yourself. Just know that there's obviously a reason why. If you've been employed somewhere, they can see you've got the potential. So, run with that.
Yeah. I have the same train of thoughts. Like, I'm always like, in terms of design, it's also a very competitive industry.
Yeah.
Everyone's always putting stuff out there, and then you're essentially comparing your own stuff to someone else's, and you're like, nah, my stuff isn't as good as theirs.
Yeah.
And you're always like wanting to do better. So it's exactly the same mindset. And then people come to you for something, but the weird thing is, like, everyone's coming to ask you to design something for them, but in your own mind you're like, oh, I need to do better, my design's not good enough. So it's like, we need to train our brain to think and appreciate how far you've come and all the work that you can produce, rather than thinking I need to do better, which you can. Like, you can always improve on yourself, but also appreciate your own work at that same time.
Yeah, 100%. Agree.
Well, thanks for the top 3 advices.
No worries.
But they're very strong, so I think
and they're really, really good points.
Yeah, you can definitely take that on board.
For anyone who wants to become a lawyer in the future, you can ask Aaron Chan over here for some advice. He's got some really good ones and really experienced in this industry, and appreciate you coming to share all your, just the mindset and the emotional journey that you went through just to get to where you are now.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think it's good people it's good to share experiences. I think just so going back to like the legal industry, I think it's when people see your professional career journey on a piece of paper or on, let's say, LinkedIn, they're like, oh wow, this person's really climbed the ladder, they must be doing so well, it's everything that they probably dreamed of and so on. But there's always a story behind everything.
The emotional journey is really important.
It may not have been all rosy, the journey, but it's a journey. You learn from it. And sometimes you find where you want to go, but other times it's realizing that, hey, that's not really what I want for myself in the long run.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Really loved hearing all these tips
and experiences. That's the biggest thing.
Well, thank you, Aaron. It's really good. Would you want to plug your Instagram?
Oh, do you want to?
It's private, so
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Cut out. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
And bye.
See ya.
See ya.